The following broadcast is brought to you by the iGolf Sports Network.
Golf Talk Live is sponsored by the iGolf Sports Network and Golf Tips Magazine. Here's Andrew to tell you more about our sponsors.
iGolf Sports is a live stream broadcast and media production company providing quality programming designed to attract the golfing enthusiast. And Golf Tips, the game's most in-depth instruction magazine, including reviews on the latest equipment, tips from top teaching professionals, all designed to help you improve from tee to green. Welcome to Golf Talk Live with your host, Ted Odorico. Join Ted each week as he speaks with some of the best in golf. This week's special guest will join us a bit later. But first up is another great discussion on Coach's Corner. So let's introduce tonight's Coach's Corner panel.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Season 13 of Golf Talk Live. I'm your host, Ted Odorico. We got a great show for you this evening. We're going to be starting things off as normal with a great discussion on the Coach's Corner panel. I've got two great guests joining me here in just a moment, Jon Decker and Brian Dobbie. And then a little bit later on, I'm going to be joined once again by golf fitness professional Bob Forman, and we're going to talk about some exercise that you can do to get yourself golf ready, if you will, in the new season coming up. And then a little bit later on, I'm going to be joined by Jon Levy. He is the VP of Communications and Senior Partnerships with GolfForever. He'll be joining me a little bit later in the broadcast. And don't forget, you can catch this show every week on our YouTube channel, and that's at iGolf Sports is the YouTube channel that you can go to. So you just go to youtube.com/@iGolfSports. And both this show and also my Tuesday morning shows, The Women of Golf with my good friend and co-host LPJ Cindy Miller. You'll be able to catch those on that as well. It's also available on Spotify for the video version as well. And if you want to hear just the audio version, you can go to Spreaker.com, where you can hit all of the episodes in the audio version, including all of the previously aired seasons have been transferred over to that platform as well. Or basically wherever you want to listen to podcasts, you can catch this show. So I appreciate you guys joining me. And I'm going to introduce the guys, and we're going to get into tonight's discussion on the Coach's Corner panel. First up, of course, is Jon Decker. He's the Director of Instruction at the Medallion Club in Columbus, Ohio. He's also a senior contributing editor and a top 25 instructor with Golf Tips Magazine. He was the 2015 Southern Ohio Teacher of the Year and author of two books, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game, and Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time. He's also available for public speaking. Also joining him is Brian Dobbie. He is a PGA Teach professional and currently at the Trump National in Bedminster, New Jersey, formerly at the Montclair Golf Club, where he spent 18 years teaching and winning multiple New Jersey section awards. Has been previously recognized as the 2012 Teacher of the Year and ranked number 7 in Golf Digest Top Teachers in New Jersey. So, guys, welcome to Coach's Corner.
Ted, great to be here. Jon, good to see you again.
All right,
Thank you, Ted, and Brian, looking forward to it.
All right, great to see you guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just give you what we talked about last week on the Coach's Corner panel was really sort of developing consistency for a successful season, and that was really our shot making. We want to be able to be consistent as we play throughout the season, so we can have a little bit more fun. This week we're going to move it a notch further, and we're going to talk about developing a game plan early in the season. So, Jon, I'm going to start with you, if you don't mind, with the first question. And so you now have if golfers are out there, I mean, there's still a few people up in the Northeast that maybe haven't quite gotten out yet, but for the most part, there's a lot of folks that have been out playing some golf already, and by now you have a pretty good sense of where your game is at. How do we lay out a game plan for our students to ensure they get off to a good start this season? What might that plan consist of?
Well, Ted, first of all, thank you for having us on the show. And Brian, I'm looking forward to tonight's discussion. I think it really starts with the fundamentals. One of my favorite stories is about Jack Nicklaus. Every season, he would go to Jack Grout and he would say, I want you to look at my grip. I want you to look at my ball position, my distance from the ball, posture, all the basic things in the setup. And we're talking about a man that was, at the time, the number one player in the world. So if the number one player in the world is still having his teacher look at his grip and ball position and distance from the ball and all those fundamentals, then the average golfer needs to be doing the same thing. So don't ever think that the setup is, I've got the setup. It's always about the swing. The majority of the lessons that I give, I spend more time getting them set up, the students set up properly, than I do working on their swing, because Brian can attest to this, and I know you know this, Ted. If you don't get the setup right, if you don't get the foundation right, none of the other things fall into place. And then from there, don't neglect your short game. I think the short game, to me, the thing that when I come into the early part of the season, when I've laid off for 2 or 3 months, and trying to get back into game shape, I find that the pitch shots are the most difficult parts to get. The little 20, 30, 40-yard shots that we all tend to get on the course. The full shots don't really take that much time for me. The driver, it's usually kind of like riding a bike, but trying to hit a 30-yard pitch shot over a bunker, if you haven't been playing a lot of golf, that feels really foreign to me. So I always try to spend a lot of time working on my pitching. And obviously putting is something that you can never spend too much time on.
Yeah, I think it's important to set sort of a benchmark for the season, working on specific things, areas of the game, and setting a plan, not just on how you're going to handle it and tackle it on the golf course, but what sort of practice regime you're going to have throughout the season as well. There's certain areas that might need a little bit more of attention right from the early part of the season, and as you progress, you make some adjustments along the way. But you want to set those things and get a game plan. You talked about that on your show, Fairways to Heaven, the other day when I was on as your guest, and you talked about really making a list, writing things down. Well, this is a great opportunity to work with your coach and put together that game plan as you start the season. So some great points there, and I want to thank you for that. Brian, I'm going to come to you, my friend, and I think a positive mindset is crucial for players of all levels. I think we got to have, it's great to have the fundamentals down and have a great golf swing, but if we're not in the right mindset. So what can students do early in the season to sort of help reinforce that positive mindset? If maybe they had a good last season, they finished off strong, but they've been sitting around for a couple of months, how can we get them? What are some things? Is there some drills or other things that you can recommend to students that would maybe help build their confidence up as they continue on this process?
Ted, great question. And John, it's always tough to follow you because you're so knowledgeable, and I love learning from you guys. But Ted, it was funny. I was giving a lesson today, and we were talking about that positive mindset. My students just starting out in the spring, and we were hitting some balls on the range, and I said, don't critique yourself after each shot. Just, did the ball go to the right or left or high? So go easy on yourself. And then I try to stress to my students, find something good about the shot, even if it's curving one way or the other that you didn't like. Maybe you liked your routine. Maybe you trusted the swing. So the more we can practice finding something good about the shot, we tend to keep a better attitude. And as we all know, the attitude is tied to our emotions of the game in playing. And during a round of golf, the emotions go high and low. And if you can stay away from those low lows with a positive attitude, that's going to go a long way throughout the season, especially with practice and all the balls we hit and stuff. But I always try to find something good about the shot. It might be my routine, my commitment to the shot or whatever. And that takes practice. We tend to focus on our full swings and stuff, but the mental part of it, like you said, we have to be focused and we have to have a good attitude and try to stay positive. And after a round of golf, I have my students tell me, what were your 3 best shots? I don't care what you shot, but tell me something good that happened. Yep. And again, can we build off of that? It might be a good fairway wood, a hybrid shot, or a bunker shot, but instead of focusing on the bad shots or whatever, give me something good. Let's build on it and try to build a practice program around that. But you can have the best technique in the world without a good positive attitude. It's not going to get you very far. So great question.
Yeah, and that's a great answer as well. I think you're exactly right. I think that we have to, you have to work on the positives. I mean, certainly you have to address some of the issues, some of the struggles that they may be having. Obviously, you can't ignore them, but you can't dwell on that. And that's one of the problems that a lot of golfers have is they keep bringing that same old baggage to the lesson tee or to the golf course, and they're thinking about past rounds, past shots, that sort of thing. And it just gets to a point where they're not really focused anymore on the task at hand. They're thinking about, well, I just have to avoid hitting that bunker like I did last time, or I've got to make sure I clear the water because I know I sometimes will hit it in there. So they start, dredging up all that past baggage. And once they start going down that path, it's very, very difficult without some help from somebody like, you, Brian, or you, Jon, or myself, to really turn that around. So they have to be receptive to that. And the earlier you can catch them in the season, I think the better it's going to be. If you start to wait and let them build up some of those negative memories and whatnot halfway through the season, and then try to, deal with it, then it makes it that much more difficult. So let's start them right at the beginning of the season. Let's get off to a fresh start. Whatever happened last season, that's in the past. You can't change that. Future hasn't happened yet. You only have now. So, but great answer. I appreciate that, Brian. Jon, I think one of the things that we have to be able to do is obviously develop good habits. Early on is important. That's really what we're talking about here, to see some success. And I'm just going to give you an example. And this is an area too that a lot of people don't think about. It's not so much the golf swing. This is about from a health and nutritional standpoint. We've got to start learning to eat better foods. And I'm not talking about some major diet change or things like that. But a lot of golfers don't eat well before they go out in the golf course, and then they have problems sustaining any sort of energy. So if you don't want to be stagnant, for several months out in the golf course, especially, or if you have been stagnant rather on the, not being able to get out in the golf course, you got to make sure that you get out and start eating better. And obviously, most importantly, you want to stay hydrated. So what else can they do? What are some other things that they can do to start ingraining some good habits early on? And if you want to touch on, those 2 points as well, by all means, go ahead.
Well, I think that, when I go out and play in tournaments, I still play in tournaments. Last year I played in 14 events, which was a lot for me, considering in years past I hadn't played really at all. And, when I go and play in a tournament, I'm a little bit jittery in the morning. I don't drink coffee before I go out and play. I want to get some food in my stomach because my tee time might be early, it might be later, but I've got to have some food in my stomach before I get started, because otherwise I'm just going to fall off a cliff energy wise. And you think about how long it takes to play a tournament round of golf.
Yeah.
By the time you drive there, you warm up, you play your round, you get home, you spent like a full day. And so you've got to have food in you. And if you're putting in food that's got a lot of sugar in it, if you're putting in food that's got a lot of caffeine in it, energy drinks, any of that the other stuff, you are not going to perform at your best. I think that you've got to, for me, I'll have oatmeal, maybe some fruit with that. And then I like to take like nuts, and I make kind of a little trail mix, and have a little bag, and throughout the round, I'll kind of graze. I'll start eating maybe the second or third hole. I'll just start eating a little food. By then, kind of the nervous energy has worn off, and now you're kind of getting into the actual round, and you feel like you're into it and everything. I think it's good to kind of be consistent with your food throughout the round. Like I remember when I was a kid, I would I'd come off the ninth hole and I'd go have a hot dog and a Coke and a candy bar. And by the 10th hole, I was high as a kite. And by the 15th hole, I was hitting rock bottom, because all that junk food had just kind of worn off. And looking back, I didn't realize what I was doing. So I think for, the juniors out there, I'm a big believer you stay away from the energy drinks. I just don't think that the Gatorades and all that stuff, it's got way too much sugar in it. I want my students drinking water, and I think nuts are great. Oatmeal, things like that, I think are more consistent, so that your blood sugar is not going up and down so dramatically, and that you can sustain yourself over 4 or 5 hours of a day. So those are some things that I do. And, I think that that keeps you, I found for me, it's kept me, consistent as far as being able to not be hungry out there on the golf course, or feel like I'm bloated or anything like that. So those are some tips I think that'll help you.
Yeah. And the reason I bring that up is that's an area of the game that's always sort of overlooked. And it is part of the game. Nicholas talked about it in Golf My Way. He talked about doing the very same thing. Now he added some other things in. He, might pack a half a sandwich or something, a banana or what have you. And I obviously have to be careful of where you're playing. I mean, you might be out in the heat, and, some of that food may not. So you want to have, some way of keeping that stored effectively. But um, you have to make sure the points that you raise are exactly right. You get out there and there's nothing wrong. I mean, I don't begrudge somebody wanting to have, if they want a hot dog or something like that, but leave that for after the round. Don't start eating a bunch of chips or, like you said, energy drinks and things like that, because they think that I'm drinking liquid, so I'm staying hydrated and that, and you are for the moment. But once, as you said, once that sugar kicks in and you get that adrenaline rush and that sugar high, and then a few holes later, all of a sudden you don't have that anymore, and the cart girl's nowhere to be seen. You can't get another one to juice you back up. So now all of a sudden you start crashing the last 3 or 4 holes, and what maybe started off to be a decent round is now all of a sudden turning into a bad round because you got no energy left. So it's very, very important, especially early in the season, to start ingraining some really good habits, both obviously on the golf course, but even nutritionally before you come to the golf course. If you're going to have breakfast at home, have something that's going to, certainly you need to have some energy, but don't get something that's going to hop you up and, having 2-3 cups of coffee. If you want to have coffee, that's fine. Have a cup of coffee, but then maybe have a glass of water after to help dilute some of the caffeine in that, so you're not getting, again, jazzed up as you get out in the golf course, because that's going to cause a whole myriad of problems. But some great points, and thank you for that. Brian, I think it's, another thing, and I keep referencing this, but I talked to Jon about this the other day on his program. And, I talked about really sort of sometimes easing into playing, especially early on in the season. A lot of people want to get out there and they want to, get that 18 in and that. And I think sometimes early in the season, maybe it might be better, as an example, maybe to begin with maybe just playing 9 holes. Obviously you want to work with your coach or your teacher and that, but maybe just start playing 9 holes a couple of times just to kind of ease into building up a little stamina, instead of just jumping in and going into your regular routine of maybe you're playing 2-3 rounds a week if you're retired or what have you. But, when you haven't been playing for 3 or 4 months, like you guys up in New Jersey, you can't just come right out there and think you're going to pick up where you left off. So, what would be, in your opinion, what would be a better strategy, maybe in addition to that, to sort of ease into the season? What are your thoughts on what I just said, and what do you like to add to that?
Ted, another great question. Like you said, in New Jersey, in the Northeast, most people haven't really played since October.
Yeah.
And so what I like to educate my students on is, one, start walking at least 3 or 4 miles around the block or whatever. You don't have to be on the gut, but get the legs in shape, because we spend a lot of time walking on a golf course, and as we know, once the legs go, the swing's going to go. The second thing is to ease into practice. Once the weather kind of breaks here, the balls come out in the driving range. And it was funny, I mentioned to a student today, I said, we were just talking about practice, and I said, the law of diminishing returns is going to kick in around swing 20, okay? Full swings, as you know, we tend to go to the driver in the long clubs, and most people only have 10 to 15 swings in them, a long one. So I said, look, once the laws of diminishing returns kick in, get off the range, go chip and putt. You can make a lot of small swings. So there's a gradual process to a season, especially up here, and it's going to take you 3-4 weeks to get into golf shape if you haven't been doing anything. So make sure you're walking a lot. Make sure you're not over hitting so many balls, because that's how people get injured. Also, you want to watch out for that. And just like Jon said earlier, chip and putt. We can do a lot more of that. Your game's going to come back. Your feel's going to come back. But that is so important starting out any season. Don't rush into it. Don't over hit. Get tired. And like you said, if it's 9 holes, play 9 holes and then work up to 18. There's nothing wrong with that. But yeah, playing 18 every day, if you're not prepared for it physically and mentally, you're going to go the opposite way. So we don't want our students starting out like that.
Yeah,
Great
and
question.
thank you. I think it's important, and great answer, by the way. I do think it's very important that people do, especially in a situation like that. Jon, you're facing the same thing. You're going to be heading back up to Columbus, Ohio next week, up to the Medallion Club, and you're going to be working with some students that maybe haven't had an opportunity to come south and play, and now they're getting out in the next little bit for the first time of the season, perhaps. and maybe they haven't been doing a lot. And now all of a sudden they're going to thrust into, well, come on, guys, let's go out and play, an 18 today. And they're not really, they haven't worked up to it. Their legs are, as I used to say in the Navy, they don't have their sea legs yet. Well, they don't have their golf legs yet. And they get out there on the course and suddenly they're a little bit shaky. They don't have the stamina or what have you. So, there's a lot of issues that can creep up. So I think it's very important that they do kind of ease into the season with it. I think it's also, we do, quite often an evaluation with our students, particularly at the beginning of the season, to kind of see where things are at, where we have to direct them, what's working good, what needs some improvement, that sort of thing. So, John, my question for you is, should students evaluate their game plan that we've been putting together for them to ensure they're staying on track? And how often should they be doing that? And is it also advantageous for them to maybe make adjustments along the way as needed?
Yes, for me, with all of my students, the first thing that I do with them in the initial part of the season, which when I get to Columbus and start teaching up there, is I'm going to say, what are your goals? What are your goals this year? And then I also want to know their objectives. And the difference is goals are long-term. So if, you might get a seventh grader who says, my goal is to play high school and college golf. Well, those are long-term goals, and we're going to do everything we can to get you to play high school and collegiate golf. But objectives are more shorter. They're more obtainable in the near future. So, for example, if someone says to me, I want to learn to hit the ball, 10 yards farther or 15 yards. I mean, we'd all like to hit the ball farther. I don't know anyone that hits it too far, that from my students' perspective, at least. Right. But or it could be score related. My best score is a 92 and I want to break 90 for the first time. Those are things that are very important to me. A great example of this is 2 years ago. I had a student that came to me and he said, my goal is, and I asked him what his goal was, and he said, my goal is to shoot my age. And he was 75, and he just last year shot at 77. He obtained that, and he sent me a picture, and he was all excited, and he reached his goal. And so so now I'm like, all right, what's your next goal? And so that I think that's the way the game of golf is kind of designed, because it's all about your score. And I don't care, you could have your best round ever, but you could always do a little bit better. And I think that's one of the things that appeals to me about the game. Like in bowling, if you have a 300, you can't do any better. So in golf, you can always do a little bit better. And if you look at your golf game as a whole, and you look at driving and putting and chipping and all the different aspects, course management and fitness, there's always an area where we can all improve. And so knowing what you're good at, knowing what you need to work on, I think those are very important things in assessing your goals and your objectives for the future.
Well said. I think you have to really, it's an ongoing evaluation, not just, obviously the coaches are going to be looking at their students along the season, seeing how things are measuring up, and obviously trying to assess where they're at from where they were at the beginning of the season. But I think it's also for the student to maybe take notes along the way, maybe to jot down, how many greens they're hitting. And, maybe at the beginning of the season, they were lucky if they were, maybe hitting 6 greens. Now, all of a sudden, they've halfway through the season, now they're hitting, 8 greens or 9 greens. So they're starting to improve. So I think it's good for them to measure. And even if, let's say, they were hitting 9 greens at the beginning of the season, now they're only hitting 6, that's okay to know that information, because now you can talk to your coach, say, okay, what's happened here? Beginning of the season, I was, came right out of the gate, hadn't played for a few months, come out the first couple of rounds, I'm hitting, greens left and right. Now, all of a sudden, I seem to be struggling a bit. So I think it's good to have that evaluation with your coach, but I think it's also good to have a self-evaluation along the way, so that you can, have those discussions, but you can also reflect and look at, what is it? Okay, what can I do? What can I bring to the table that's going to help my coach? So having that information, keeping track, because he's not going to be with you every round. He's there when on the lesson tee with you, and maybe through a playing lesson, but he's not there, 2-3 times a week when they're playing with your friends. So it's good to have that data available. And there's a lot of great ways you can do it through apps and so forth as well. But, you need to have that information so that you can bring that to your coach, and you can say, look, here's where things are. Here's where they were. I see some improvement. What do you think? What are your thoughts? And then go from there. And I think it's important to evaluate, both of you to do an evaluation, student and coach, along the way throughout the season. Brian, I'm going to come back to you. And this is one, obviously, I think it's a no-brainer, and that's course management. Knowing how to navigate effectively around the course is obviously just as important as any other part of the game. When to take risks, when to play it safe, really depends on, obviously, the player's ability. How do we help them maintain a realistic approach to their on-course play? Because, again, sometimes people have very lofty ambitions and they want to, hit more greens and things like that, but maybe their game isn't quite there. So how do we put together an effective on-course strategy that's going to help them, lead them to that, to be a more successful player as we're working with some of the things along the way?
Ted, a lot of my lessons are exactly what you're talking about. The decisions we make on the golf course. Number one, are we hitting high percentage shots or low percentage shots? And if we're always hitting low percentage shots, that's going to lead to trouble, high scores. Okay. The other thing is, where are we aiming? Are we aiming for the middle of the green? And starting out during the season, depending on our skill level, let's forget about where the pin is. Let's get the ball on the green quickly. So are we aiming for the middle of the green? We want to get that putter in our hand. So that's very important. The next thing is, what changes on the golf course? The lies change. We have uneven lies. Do we know how to handle those? Okay, so a playing lesson might include how to hit a side hill lie, uphill lie. What's the effective loft of the club? And then as the grass starts to grow during the season, what's our ball lying on? Is it deep grass? And that's going to change our decision making. We need more loft to get out of heavy rough. The club turns down and stuff. So I get a lot of great feedback on a playing lesson with my students. Just what kind of clubs you're hitting here and what's your process. The next thing I do is, say somebody hits a drive. I always ask them, what's the par from here? And give yourself 2 putts. Is it a par 3 or a par 4? And if you're realistic about your game, and we all have our A game, B game, C game, but if you ask yourself that question, what's the par from here? You're going to backtrack and say, okay, it's a par 4. How am I going to play the hole now? I'm going to hit maybe a 7-iron over here and hit a wedge on. And if we're realistic about how we're playing that day, and if we can answer that question in true honesty, we're going to eliminate big numbers. That question gets rid of big numbers, and you just have to stick to your game plan. I'm not hitting it well today. I'm going to play a more conservative shot to a bigger landing area, and then hopefully my short game's working pretty good to keep the score down. But that's a big part of what we do, Ted. And John, I'm sure you give a lot of playing lessons. The decisions we make on the golf course can make or break our round. And low percentage shots, there's no place in that in golf unless you're one down on the 18th hole and you have to, hit a miracle shot. But so those are things we'd like to educate our students with. It's very important.
Great answer, Brian. Thank you. Jon, I think another important thing to think about is, when we talk about having a game plan, it's not just about a game plan for the season, working out strategies and things like that. It's a game plan really for each round. And let me explain what I mean by that. Quite often we see people very unorganized from shot to shot. 1 minute it looks like they've got a pre-shot routine. The next minute it's completely different. There's no organization in in their method. It's just it's all over the place. So as much as we want to work with them on a long-term strategy for the season, it's also important to focus in on the day-to-day or the shot-by-shot process as well. So just give me your thoughts on that a little bit, if you wouldn't mind. How do we get them better organized in the now and not just constantly thinking about the future all the time?
Well, there's 2 things that really popped out of my head when you asked that question. The first is the pre-shot routine. The pre-shot routine is just like logging onto your computer. I have to do it the same way every time. I can't change it up every time. My computer won't allow me in if I put in the wrong password. I have to do it the exact same way. So the keys to a pre-shot routine, I just had a student today that I went over with this information. Number one is that you have a target.
Mm-hmm.
You see your shot. So you see your target. That's number one. Number two is you feel your shot. So you're making 1 or 2 or 3 practice swings. In the short game, I might make 5 or 6 or 7 practice swings. Like Brian was saying, on an uneven lie. I mean, how often do people practice uneven lies? So if I get a really severe uneven lie, I'm going to make more practice swings to feel that slope and figure out my alignment and where I can miss it and all those things. So you have the seeing, you have the feeling, and then you have the execution of the shot. And that's actually putting the club down behind the ball, going through where you have your feet together, then you open up your left foot and you widen your right foot. Everyone may do it a little differently, but you do it the exact same way every time. And then number 4 is trust. You have to trust all of those things. So you see it, you feel it, you do it, and you trust it. And that is Bob Rotello 101 right there. You have to have those basic things down in every single shot. There's never a shot where I don't do those 4 things. And if I don't do those 4 things, then I probably will hit a poor shot. So that's something that I try to ingrain into all my students in their pre-shot routine. And then from there, it's just a matter of being able to, go out on the golf course and then execute that routine and trust it and not try to get wrapped up in swing mechanics and things like that. So I think that's to me is something that we can all work on. And you can practice your pre-shot routine on the driving range. You don't wait till you get on the golf course and go, oh, well, I heard Jon last night say that, I need to do these 4 things. That's not going to work.
Right.
You have to have it ingrained from the lesson tee. And I would encourage all the listeners out there to go to your local PGA golf professional and have a lesson only on the pre-shot routine, and it could be a half-hour lesson. You may not need to do an hour, but just so that they can observe you. Because when I watch and I'm working with a student on their pre-shot routine, in the rules of golf, we're allowed 45 seconds to hit a shot. I don't want my student taking 45 seconds to hit a shot. No. But I also don't want my student hitting a shot in 5 or 10 seconds. I like to, for me, when I'm playing, I like to be between 20 and 25 seconds. Mm-hmm. And so I will practice and I will time it. And I remember one lesson I gave them my cell phone. I had the stopwatch on there, and I said, I want you to time me. And I said, I'm going to be at 25 seconds. And I was at 25 seconds. And he said, how'd you do that? And I said, because I've done it over and over and over again. Yep. I'm the same way every time. And that 25 seconds allows me so that if I'm getting ready to hit the shot and a car drives by and blows its horn, or the wind changes, or something really unusual happens, it gives me time to stop, regroup, go over and start again, and still have a chance to get my shot off and not be slowing up the golf course.
Yeah. And that's what the professionals do. If you watch any of the top tour pros out there, that's exactly what they'll do. Is if they get something that distracts them, whether it's, maybe a camera or what have you in the, in the crowd, or somebody, even applause the green over here and they're on the tee box. If they get distracted, they'll stop their routine and they'll go through the whole thing from the very beginning. And obviously, I know we have to be, be careful, with a lot of amateurs out there, because you don't want them spending so much time that you start incurring slow play and things like that. So you have to be mindful. And that's why I think, to your point, it's important to practice that and to get proficient in it, so that again, that's why the word routine is in pre-shot routine, is you make it a routine so that you can consistently do it each and every time. And I think that if a lot of golfers would do that, it would ingrain, going back to a question we had earlier, is those good habits. It ingrains a good habit that you can develop some consistency, and your game and in each and every shot, so that you're doing the same thing every time. And it gives you and helps elevate a new level of confidence each time when you're doing that as well. Even if you pull off a bad shot, it's still going to help you with some confidence. So,
Ted, can I follow up with one thing? I want the listeners out there to know that I'm not saying I stand over the ball for 25 seconds. That 25 seconds is picking my target, making my practice swing, setting up to the ball, and actually executing the shot. So that's the 25 seconds. I just want to make sure the listeners understand that.
Yeah, and I think most people have an understanding of that, but that's a great point to raise. Brian, I'm just going to get you to sort of do the opposite a little bit here. I think it's important, and it kind of goes to a question earlier about evaluation, if you will. And I know you don't have a lot of time on the golf course to do this, but I think a post-shot routine as well. I think, or a post-shot evaluation. Maybe you went through Jon gave you a good routine to go through, and you ended up not hitting a great shot anyways. Now you have an opportunity to do a quick assessment. Walk us through that a little bit. What's happening here? What do we want them to take away from that? Obviously, you don't want to get them down in the dumps and be focusing on hitting that bad shot, but what are the takeaways that you want them to have when they do have that scenario?
Great. I love the post-shot routine, and nobody really talks about it. Here's my strategy that I like to teach my students. One, find something good about the shot, okay? If we hit a shot, again, find something good, because we can easily find something bad about every shot. And I think that gives us some positive energy, and we need energy and momentum as the round goes on. We don't want that baggage of bad shot, bad shot, bad shot. So find something good about it. Now, if you hit a shot and it's what, like Jon said, he saw it, he felt it, he trusted it, and he pulled it off, just pick up your tee and go, okay? That's what you were envisioning, all right, in the pre-shot routine. If it's not the shot you wanted, find something good about it, but then go take a practice swing in slow motion and try to picture a perfect 5-iron or whatever club you're using, square the club face up, go to a perfect finish, and get something positive into your subconscious of, man, what was I trying to do with a perfect swing there? And I think that's very important. Practice swings need to have a purpose also. So I like to follow up shots with, okay, if it came out the way I wanted it, pick up my tee and go. If there's something to find good about it, I'm going to find it, but then I'm going to rehearse what do I want to do with the club. And I think that rehearsal puts something positive in my subconscious, and then I go on. I just don't, there's got to be a post-shot routine. I think it's critical, and we can learn so much by using our imagination and picturing a square club face and good balanced swing. It's so important. I love that question, Ted. It was great.
Yeah, I think the pre-shot and obviously the post-shot routine is important. The shot itself takes a couple of seconds and it's over with, but the leading up to your shot, if you're not properly prepared, you're not into some sort of a routine, and obviously your post-shot, if you're not doing that, then you're running the risk of continuing to have issues along the way. So the shot, goes through very, very quickly, but leading up to the shot and post-shot is just as important as the actual shot itself. So you got to make sure that you get yourself focused on that. All right, guys, any final thoughts? Jon, I'm going to go to you first. Any final thoughts on developing a good plan through the season? And then Brian, I'm going to give you that opportunity. And Jon, while you're at it as well, you can also let the folks know the best way they can reach out as we wrap up.
Well, for the listeners out there, first of all, Ted, thanks for having us on today. And Brian, it was great being on with you. Every time I'm on with you, I learned something. I love that last answer you just gave. As far as the routines of what the student should do, I would get with a pro as soon as possible, your local pro that you work with. I think it's important that you have a plan, you lay out a plan, and you get started on that. And you're better to take the lessons now. Don't wait until the week before the member guest tournament. That's not the time to be taking your lessons. So let's try to get the season started off with on the right path right now. And I would encourage everyone to do that. As far as being able to get in touch with me, the easiest way is to go to my website. It's deckergolf.com. I'm also available on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn. And if you're interested in my book, I have 2 books. I'm a Christian author. So I have Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. And also my second book, which came out last year, Fairways to Heaven, One Shot at a Time. Those are available on Barnes & Noble, Amazon, or Walmart, or any of the major areas wherever you might buy your books. You can buy the books there. And I'm excited that I just started a new show. It's called Fairways to Heaven. It's on Bold Brave TV. I've signed up for 52 shows once a week. It's on Wednesday mornings at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But you can download the show at any time. So if you go to my YouTube channel or you go to LinkedIn or Facebook, I've got them posted, but my website has all 6 shows up there as well. It's Ted, you've been on the show now twice, and Brian, I want to have you on as well. So I'm going to reach out to you after the show about that as well. But thanks to the audience for listening, and Ted, thanks for hosting.
Not a problem. And Brian, what about you? Final thoughts on our discussion today, and then how can the folks best reach out to you if they want to get in touch?
Final thoughts, great topic tonight. Starting out the season, we all get pumped up. Like Jon said, get in front of your PGA Pro, get some lessons, get on the right track, establish your goals, take it slow. We don't want any injuries. One other thing we didn't mention, get your equipment checked.
Yeah.
Probably new grips are in order, especially if we haven't played since last September, but definitely get your equipment checked, get new grips. They always help. And chip and putt, rhythm, timing. It's going to keep your scores down, and all those little mini swings feed into a full swing. So take it slow, get your legs in shape. We talked about nutrition and your mind, a positive attitude. All those pieces to the puzzle are going to lead to better scores and long-term learning. It's a great game. We have our ups and downs. We're not always going to hit it great, but that's when your short game has to bail you out. But be patient with it. That's a good way to start the season. If somebody wants to get in touch with me, Instagram is Brian Dobbie PGA. Look me up on Instagram, or here's my cell number, 908-531-3637. I'm at Trump Bedminster here in New Jersey. It's a beautiful facility. So if you're up my way, give me a shout. I'd love to help you with your game. Jon, it's always great to see you. I read your first book. I thought it was amazing. So I can't wait to read your second book. And Ted, thanks for having me on the show. I really appreciate you always asking. I love being on this show.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you both for coming on and always bringing your best to the Coach's Corner panel. I enjoy these discussions, and I know with the new format, I know the audience is going to enjoy it as well, to be able to see everybody as opposed to just listening to our voices all the time as we have for many seasons. But it's been exciting. Obviously, it's new for all of us to do this in many ways, but we're going to have a lot of fun as the season progresses. But I want to thank you guys. Just hang tight after the show for just a moment or two. But I'm going to take a quick commercial break. And when I come back, I'm going to be joined by my good friend, golf fitness professional, Bob Forman. We'll be right back.
Improve your putting with the Alignment Ball Marker, a revolutionary new in-game putting alignment tool and ball marker. Its patented design allows you to read your putt and adjust your alignment at the same time by using your putter, which improves your accuracy and makes the process of putting faster. 100% legal according to the USGA, by their definition, permitted under the rules of golf. Winner of Best New Product at the PGA Show and only $9.99 on Amazon. And it's also completely customizable for any golf event or as a promotional giveaway. Order at alignmentballmark.com.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm excited to bring on my next guest, golf fitness professional Bob Forman. Let me tell you just a little bit more about him, and then we're going to talk about getting some strength training for golf for this season. Bob is the former director of fitness and wellness for Congressional Country Club in Bethesda, Maryland. He's also internationally known as a leader in the field of golf fitness, and his programs have been recognized several years in a row, from 2021 to 2023 by the Golf Fitness Association of America. He holds a Master of Science degree in exercise physiology and is a certified golf fitness instructor through Titleist Performance Institute, or TPI. He's also a certified personal trainer through the American College of Sports Medicine, and many, many other certifications along the way. But Bob, welcome back to the show.
It's always a pleasure.
Well, I appreciate it. So what I want to do is, as I mentioned, we're going to talk about strength training for golf. But what I'm going to do first, and I'm doing this mainly as precautionary for the audience, and that is to provide just a very brief medical disclaimer. Obviously, it's important before you start any of the fitness exercises that you consult, obviously, with your doctor, and certainly you want to be dealing with a certified golf fitness instructor as well that you're working with. Don't just take anybody's say so on exercise and things like that. You want to make sure that you're working with a qualified person, but most importantly, you want to make sure that you consult with your doctor first to make sure that you're okay to do some of the exercise that may be involved with. And you may want to work with your fitness instructor and get them to give you some examples of some of the things you might be doing so you can have that conversation with your doctor before you get into any sort of exercises. But most of it's pretty straightforward. So we definitely, Bob, we definitely need to train our bodies to correctly increase both strength and flexibility. If we want to be able to play our best golf. So what are some exercises that will best accomplish that? And before you get into that, as I'm going to pop up just a short clip, and we're going to get into a couple of the different moves and positions, and you can talk about them as some of the exercises, and maybe more importantly, explain how they're going to help the golf game, what they're designed to do, and that sort of thing. So let me just bring up the first one here. Let me just push this here. And okay, so the first one here, you're obviously laying on a bench, and it looks like you've got a weight in your hand. What is it you're getting ready to do here? What's the exercise, and what is it technically, what is it looking to benefit for us?
Well, actually, this is kind of a progressive exercise. It's a one-arm chest press. And to begin, though, I think individuals need to keep in mind that they should start off nice and easy. If they haven't got into a strength training program yet, do something that's comfortable for them. Hit the major muscle groups, the larger muscle groups, the chest, the back, especially the back, as we talked about in the last segment, to help with the rounded shoulder C posture you see a lot with golfers. The legs, the core being anything from the bottom of the rib cage to the mid thigh, front and back. So you're looking at the abs, the glutes, and then obviously the arms, the biceps, the triceps, and the forearms. So if you kind of spend a good 3 to 4 weeks on hitting those majors, give yourself a good base, and then you can get into more progressive stuff like this. I try to get all my golfers to get into single limb exercises, and this is just an example of one of them, where you're just doing a chest press with one arm at a time. And what that does is it isolates that side of the body, because we all tend to have a stronger side, we all tend to have a tighter side. So when you do single arm, single leg exercises, you're going to know pretty much right off the bat,
right,
whether you have a stronger side or not. You're looking for symmetry. You're always looking for symmetry, either in strength training or in stretching. So you want to feel that you're able to do equal weight on both the right and the left sides.
Right.
So again, this is just one example of a single limb exercise, a one arm chest press. And, reps and sets, the jury's always out about that. A lot of the studies that are out there that involve strength training, most of them kind of go with 1 to 2 sets of 8 to 12 reps.
Right.
And it's important that you keep the reps in a range setting, like 8 to 12, 10 to 15 is another good range. Because what you want to do is you want to work a weight until you get to the maximum number of reps in that range. So if you're doing 8 to 12, 12 would be the max. Once you hit 12, you want to stay there for 2 or 3 weeks, establish that strength at that weight, at those number of reps. And then that's a signal to you that you need to now challenge the muscle again with something different. And the easiest thing to do is to increase the weight just a little bit. So that's a good recommendation in terms of, starting easy, hitting the majors, develop a base. Then you can get into a little more progressive exercise. Use a range of reps so that you know when you can advance the weight, and be consistent. 3 days a week is a good protocol.
Yeah, and I see here, I'm just looking at the number. The audience may not be able to read this, but it looks like this is about 45 pounds. So you may want to, especially for somebody that's, doing this this is a more progressive, a little bit more advanced, but, maybe they want to start off with a lighter weight to make sure that they're, working up to this. Obviously, you've been doing this for a while, so Obviously in this picture here, you were in good shape and are able to do that more effectively. I want to advance it to, yeah. Well, no, I take that back. Yeah, you are. I know what you mean. All right. So here's another exercise that you're getting ready. There's another clip here. So explain what you're getting ready to do here, and then I'll advance it to the next clip.
Yeah, this is another real good exercise, and one I highly recommend everybody should do, especially golfers. And it's called a side step. And basically what I have here is I have an exercise band wrapped around my ankles, tied around my ankles, and that's going to provide me the resistance that I'm looking for. There are different tension in different bands, so you got to play around with the tensions. They usually come in light, medium, heavy, extra heavy. But what you want to do is keep the feet together, tie the band around your ankles, and then in a standing position, you're going to take side steps. So you're going to sidestep 10 to 15 to 20 reps down the hallway, and then come back, in the opposite direction, 10 to 15 to 20 reps. This isolates the gluteus medius, which is a hip stabilizing muscle. So it's an important muscle for us to keep nice and strong.
Right.
But unfortunately, a lot of us are weak in the glutes because we sit a lot during the day. And as you sit, you elongate the glutes, so you weaken them over time. But the glutes are your powerhouse. The TPI calls them the king of the golf swing. So you really want to get those glutes nice and strong. The other thing about this exercise is that it does take you east to west, side to side, where a lot of the exercises and machines that you're going to work with in fitness centers, gyms, are more north and south, front to back.
Right.
And this is going to help you stabilize your lower body, while you're swinging the golf club. So this is I highly recommend this exercise.
All right, let me move on to one of the next images here, and then you can talk about that as well. So here you're at another station, you're at another machine here. What are you getting ready to do here? And then I'll advance it.
So this, I'm on a cable machine. You can do this with, again, exercise tubing. Cable machines are the two probably modalities that you want to choose. It's called a standing Russian twist. And it's going to work the core, specifically the obliques on the sides of the stomach. And the British Journal of Medicine, when they did their studies on the golf swing in terms of the muscles that are involved, the obliques were definitely engaged in both the back and downswing phases. So basically from a standing position, I've got the cable handle in my hand.
Yep.
And my arms are extended out, and basically what I'm going to do is just swing the cable around from a 3 o'clock position to a 9 o'clock position. And the important thing is that the hands stay in front of the sternum, the breastbone, as you rotate around. All right, so you don't want to just rotate the arms and not rotate the trunk, because you want to isolate the obliques, like I say, on the sides of the stomach. And again, you want to start fairly easy with this. You don't want to put too much pressure on the back,
right?
But you want to be nice and smooth, and you always want to exhale on your effort. Usually when you're lifting the weight is when you want to breathe. Don't hold your breath. Again, 8 to 12, 10 to 15 reps, 1 to 2 sets on each side. Great exercise because it mimics somewhat the golf swing.
Yeah, because let me just interrupt real quick, because when you're making your turn, a lot of golfers, you see them just moving their arms, but their chest is still facing pretty much straight forward. But that's not really how the golf swing works, is you're actually turning everything together. So this is really a great at mimicking what happens in the golf swing. Obviously, you're not in the exact golf posture that you would normally be, but again, you're mimicking what's taking place with the upper body. And this is obviously going to help reinforce that. So it's a great point. Let me move on to one more here. And
most of these, we're just talking about strength. Okay. So
right.
The pace is comfortable.
Yep.
It's not explosive, and again, you want to develop strength because, as you mentioned in the opening, that strength plus flexibility will produce power. So if you want more distance in your golf swing, a more powerful golf swing, you got to incorporate strength training and you got to incorporate stretching. So, again, these are strength exercises, and we can adapt some of these later on when you develop, again, further that base into more of a power/speed exercise. And I think that's another topic for another day.
Right. So
okay, this is upper back. This is an upper back squeeze exercise. And we talked again in the last segment about posture and how we're seeing a lot of C postures or a bowing of the spine at address. And a lot of that has to do with a weakness of the rhomboid muscles that are the muscles that attach your shoulder blades to your spine. They tend to flare out because we're hunched over computers, we're hunched over patients, dentists, doctors, and stuff like that, cell phones. So those rhomboids tend to weaken. So you want to strengthen those rhomboids to get the shoulder blades back towards the midline of the body and to help your posture. So this is one of the exercises. Again, I'm using an exercise band here that I have wrapped around a solid object. You can use a cable machine. But basically what I'm doing here with the outstretched arms is to pull the bands back. My elbows are up, and I'm feeling that squeeze of the shoulder blades in my upper back because I want to engage those rhomboids. And again, I'm exhaling as I'm pulling back. Steady, nice, easy pace, 8 to 12, 10 to 15 reps, you're good to go.
I want to point something out too. I don't know if people notice this, is you're not standing perfectly straight up either. You've got some flex in your knees. You're actually sort of almost, you're not leaning, you definitely, I'm not saying so much that you're leaning back, but you're not leaning into the band. So you're actually got a little bit of flexibility in your knees, your posture. You're not standing, perfectly straight. So obviously you need to have a little bit of a knee flex. And I noticed too, you emphasize the fact that, you see a lot of people tuck their elbows in, they're pulling to get more strength in that, especially if you're working with some of the heavier bands, but you've got your elbows in a position. Obviously you can't see me, but demonstrate, but yeah, you've got them up in that. And again, that's to isolate the specific muscles that you want to isolate with this particular exercise. And again, it's to help build strength, but it's not a movement that you want to force either. Like you see a lot of times people in the gym where they're, sort of throwing weights up and things like that. Mm-hmm. It's a very controlled exercise. There's a reason for it. You're building strength easier that way, but also you're working on your flexibility. And so it's very careful, very important that you're working on these exercises in its proper manner. And I like the fact that you're using resistance bands as opposed to, and I'm sure you could use weights as well, as opposed to weights, because it's a consistent resistance as opposed to people that like to throw a little heavier weights on. We talked about in the first exercise, using a heavier weight, and sometimes that's not always conducive to accomplish what you want. So let me see. I think we got one more here that we can advance.
Well, actually, before you go, the one thing, when the elbows are up like that, you're going to isolate the upper back. You can actually do this exercise with the elbows coming close to the body, which will now change the emphasis to the lats. So you really can get two different exercises with this. And then the other thing, I'm glad you brought that up about the balance. When you're using the bands or exercise tubes, you want to make sure that you stay balanced because I've seen these things break. And if you're leaning, away from the anchor, in this case, it's over here on the left, wrapped around that pole. Yeah. If you're leaning away from that and that thing does snap, you're going to go flying. So you want to make sure that you're in a balanced stance, no matter what you're doing with the exercise tubes and exercise bands.
Yeah, well said. All right, let me go on to the next one. Okay, here's one here. You're on your back. You've got your arms back to your sides, not completely, but you've got your forearms and your hands turned up. So what are you getting ready to do here? What's this exercise and what's it designed to help?
Well, this is called a shoulder pinch. And what I'm doing here is I'm lying on a foam roller. I've got the foam roller going down my spine. You can do this in a standing position as well with the foam roller between you and a wall on your spine. And my arms are up like indicating a touchdown. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm pinching or squeezing the shoulder blades together. Again, I'm engaging those rhomboid muscles in the upper back. At the same time, this will provide a stretch, excuse me, to the muscles across the front part of the chest. So it's kind of a dual exercise, which is nice, again, one that will help posture, will help seat posture. You can put very light weights in your hands when you're doing this, especially in a horizontal position like this. I'm talking 1 or 2 pounds at the most.
Yeah.
And what that will do is that will help with mobility of the shoulder. It will give you a little more external rotation of the shoulder, which is important in the golf swing as well. But the main focus here is on the rhomboids again in the upper back and stretching the muscles across the chest and front of the shoulder.
And I'm going to advance on to the next. So here's another one that you're doing here. Give us an idea of what you're accomplishing here and what's the purpose of this exercise.
Yeah, this is going back to the glutes, and this is called a bridge with an extension. Again, the glutes are important to keep nice and strong because not only are they going to help you in your golf swing, but they support your lower back while you're standing. And again, because of the fact we sit a lot during the day, we elongate the glutes, and when you elongate a muscle, you weaken it. So you're in a lying position, your feet are flat, your knees are up. The first progression would be to have your arms down at your side.
Right.
So that'll give you a little more stability, versus the picture here where I have my arms folded. That's a little bit more of a progressive exercise because you're taking away your stability.
Gotcha.
So basically you're lifting just the hips up into the air as high as you comfortably can. And that's the first progression, is just doing a straight bridge without lifting the leg. If that's easy to do, then you want to hold that for 10, 15 seconds. And if that's easy to do, then you can isolate right side, left side by lifting one foot. In this case here, I've got my right foot up in the air. You see thigh is with thigh. You don't want to lift the foot up too high, but you want to keep thighs parallel. And that's going to isolate the left side glute. And you're just holding that while you're breathing for 10 to 15 seconds. And then you can switch the feet, put the right foot down, put the left foot up, hold that for 10 to 15 seconds. Ted, this actually is one of the assessments that I do on golfers to measure the strength of the glutes. When a golfer does this, when they lift one foot up off the floor, they should be rock solid. There shouldn't be any wobble in the hips. There shouldn't be any dipping of the hip back towards the floor. And if the hamstring or the lower back start to cramp up, those are all signs of weakness in that side glute. So it's a good little test or an assessment to do on yourself. And if you find yourself wobbling while you're up there or you find yourself cramping up, that's an indication that you really need to get into this exercise on a regular basis. But it's a good one to incorporate into your program because, again, the significance of the glutes in the golf swing.
Well said. Well, thank you for that. Let me get us back into our regular talking mode here. And we just got a few more minutes here. And I guess what I want to ask is you indicated that a number of reps that we can certainly do. What do you recommend? How often should these exercises be done? Again, obviously with a consultation with your doctor to make sure that you're able to do some of these. They don't look overly strenuous, but they're certainly going to test you nevertheless. How often should these be done, and how much of a time commitment? If it's a couple times a week, how much time should we commit to some of these exercises that we're looking at?
Well, ideally, I mean, if you can get into a 3-day-a-week workout, and for most golfers, I recommend a total body workout. So again, you're hitting all those major muscle groups: the chest, the back, the core, the arms, biceps, triceps, front, back. Your forearms are important for golf, and there's a couple of great exercises you can do for that. Your legs, your glutes, your quads in the front of the thigh, hamstrings in the back of the thigh. If they're not too tight, there's a lot of golfers out there that have tight hamstrings, which can impact their lower back. And you got to keep in mind, when you strengthen a muscle, you tighten a muscle. So if you're strengthening an already tight muscle, you're going to make it tighter. That may enhance the lower back issues. So if you can get into a 3-day-a-week program, total body workout. And should take it shouldn't take all that long, maybe 15, 20 minutes. And again, the trick is the consistency of which you do it. If you're going to do it 3 times this week, you're going to skip a week, do once the next week, that's not going to cut it. You don't have to go nuts. You don't have to be an Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, a lot of the golfers are starting to come out now, and talking about excessive strength training and how it's ruining some of these pro golfers, and I tend to agree with that. I think there's definitely a window where you don't want to do too much, and again, you don't want to do too little. You want to kind of stay right in the middle there. So hitting all the majors to start with, build that base 3 days a week. You're going to get some soreness, but that'll go away over time.
Yeah, and again, that's can't emphasize enough. You want to consult with your physician first before you start any sort of exercise regimen. But some great tips, Bob, as always. Appreciate you coming on, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. But I got to take another commercial break and to hear from another one of our sponsors, Brush Tea. And when I return, I'm going to be joined by Jon Levy, VP of Communications for GolfForever. But Bob, hang tight for a second, and I'll be right back with my very special guest of the evening. All right, welcome back, everybody, to Golf Talk Live, and I'm very excited to have my next guest on the show, Jon Levy. He is the VP of Communications and Senior Partnerships with GolfForever. I'm going to tell you a little bit about him, and then we're going to get into tonight's discussion, and I've got lots to talk about, so we're going to try to see if we can unpack everything here in the next little bit. Jon is a longtime communications and marketing professional, leveraging former career as a golf coach and touring professional to grow the first customized at-home golf fitness and wellness system that gives all golfers the same world-class workout plans, recovery programs, and performance coaching as some of the best players in the world. He's been working with GolfForever since day one and has been instrumental in forging key partnerships with the brand's key tour athlete ambassadors. I'm going to tell you a little bit about those in just a moment, but please welcome my very special guest, Jon Levy. Jon, how are you doing?
I'm great, Ted. Yeah, thank you for having me. And it's funny kind of hearing your bio sometimes, but you nailed it. Been here since day one and excited to talk about it. Thank you.
Not a problem. As I was just telling you before we came back on, obviously I'm familiar with GolfForever. I've used your product, and I think it's fantastic. And I know you got a lot of exciting things going on right now. But just for those that maybe are not familiar with it out there, there's obviously still people that haven't maybe heard of GolfForever or maybe not familiar with it. Just give us just a little bit of an overview of the company and really what it's all about.
Yeah, it's, and I'm excited to talk about your experience with this, Ted, as well as you said. GolfForever is about movement. And, I was attracted originally to the premise that our founder, Dr. Jeremy James, started the company with world-renowned pain specialist out of Aspen, Colorado. I had originally met him through Justin Leonard, who obviously 12-time winner in the PGA Tour, was living in Aspen at the time, and met Jeremy through a mutual contact for my previous company, Golf Tech. I was head of communications there at the corporate headquarters here in the Denver area, and took the call with Jeremy under the onus of, would there be a potential partnership with Golf Tech? And very soon after, I was enamored by his vision with the business, his mission, basically to create a virtual solution and a virtual program of what he was doing in person. And what he was doing in person was helping people who had sometimes, severely debilitating back pain, other pains in their body, that were limiting them from, doing everything in life and of course playing golf. And
Right.
he had a lot of golfers. And so, this idea to create a program that was based around pain relief, but then there's this whole other performance aspect and element to it. I was, extremely intrigued by that in the very beginning. And so, through some talks with him, we ended up hitting it off from a, conceptual standpoint. And so he brought me in to help manage and grow the golf side of the business. And it was an overall, health and fitness platform with 3 different brands. GolfForever was just one of them, Back Forever and Fit Forever, which Back Forever is a back pain specific protocol. Fit Forever is for 50 and over. And so
Right.
that was the start of it in 2019. And when I started, it was purely a validation model. Can we make this thing fly? Put out some Facebook ads. The program itself very sound. It's based on customization of, you take a 5 to 10 minute assessment, you self-assess your performance with, as you know,
Yeah.
with some very basic movements. And then from there, it gives you a truly customized and personalized daily program. Every day has a 10 to 15 minute warm up. We call that the fundamentals routine. And then there's a rotational power routine, which is, strength, dynamic rotation, recovery routines, injury prevention. And, each daily workout, call it today's workout, takes about 30 to 45 minutes in total. And, as we've grown since that initial validation model, when we didn't even have the app, just the concept of what Jeremy was trying to do from 2019. Now we've developed this app that we've had in the marketplace, and we have tens of thousands of active subscribers, a 4.9 rating on the App Store, because the program is just that effective. And so that's it in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's been growing. It's amazing because I remember, as you point out, when you sort of first came on the scene, we didn't really notice a lot of golf fitness until we started seeing at the professional level. I mean, everyday golfers. I mean, we look back 30 years ago and you look at the golfers, and I'm not saying this is a criticism, but they were a little more paunchy around the midsection. Certainly they were healthy. I'm not suggesting they weren't, but you see, obviously with the onset of people like Tiger, of course, came in and really changed the face of golf, and then you've seen Rory and so many others. And I want to mention this group here because these guys have now become ambassadors. One of the obviously most notable is Scotty Scheffler. We'll get you to talk a little bit about him. Justin Leonard, of course, another great professional. Tom Kim, Zach Johnson, and of course Ryan Palmer. And then you've now got the PGA America's Teacher and Coach of the Year for 2025. Jason Bale has also joined as an ambassador as well. So tell us a little bit. I mean, obviously, I know you don't have time to get into everybody there, but let's talk a little bit maybe about Scotty.
Sure.
and obviously Justin, and then obviously your new recruit, if you will, Jason. Talk about how you managed to get him excited about it as well.
Yeah, no, great. And it's a great cross section of people right there,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're all in different facets, kind of timelines of their careers with the tour players. And then Jason, tremendously talented golf coach and instructor. And yeah, I mean, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, Justin Leonard was part of this business from the very beginning with Jeremy, and truly believed in the concept, believed in what Jeremy was doing. And so he's been there since the start, and an incredible advocate, and obviously now playing, and just won recently on PGA Tour Champions. And he was at that point where he was not playing very much, casually, but really had kind of hung up the sticks and traded him for skis, and everything active in Aspen. And then, when I met him, he was in this time period. He was, I think, 48, and it was getting close to that time where, he started thinking about it, getting that itch back, I believe, from my conversations with him. And then obviously decided to pursue it full time again. And so he's always been, a great advocate and part of the business, and had a tremendous amount of input. Fast forward a couple of years, we started, I think like many startups, we've got this great concept. We start advertising, we've got a lot of big plans. And anyone that, Ted, could have some war stories with you of, what you think success is going to look like, and then what it actually turns out to be, and when it turns out to be.
Right.
And so, the initial thought of subscriber growth really was very challenging in the beginning. And to your point, you mentioned kind of the general persona of golfers so many years ago, and how that's changed now with the Tigers and the Rorys and the Scotties out there. And it really was what attracted me to go down this path with Jeremy, because I knew nothing like that existed for the everyday golfer. And the whole point of what we do, it's approachable, and it is, this word gets overused, I think, sometimes in industry, but we truly are disruptive in a way that, we're trying to get this message across that, especially for the aging golfer, you're over 30, 40, 50, 60, you're in the office all the time, you're slumped over your computer, your device, you go straight out to the first tee, and then you wonder why you wake up, your neck hurts, you can't turn to the left or right, and you can't swing a golf club for 2 weeks. It's kind of the common story, and I lived that story. And so it really was, something personal to me as well. And so just being in golf and around golf my entire career and life, I really felt like, the concept was there for the taking from a business sense, and really, that said, was a very big challenge with the general public. And so, fast forward 2 years, 2021, and gentleman named Pete Holman, and I can't remember if you had him on the show or not, but he's our, he's our, we nickname him affectionately the Golf Ninja. And so, he's a former U.S. Taekwondo team captain and national champion, and comes from a long background in, fitness and physical therapy, and really just a, great motivator and coach. And so he came to Jeremy and I at that point, Dr. Jeremy James, our founder, and on Jeremy's request to Pete of saying, we want to make the program more effective. And to do that, Pete, you had developed this concept many years ago that was asymmetrical bar training, which ended up being the GolfForever swing trainer, which I know you and I talked about before we jumped on air. And this concept really turbocharges the effect of building dynamic rotational strength, and in an asymmetrical manner with basically a 44-inch aluminum bar, and we have 2 rubber grips on it, and then there are 2 different resistance band cord options that you affix to an anchor point. And with that, there are so many different planes, vectors, movements that you can do that mimic the golf swing. Some are, basic rotational moves. It's almost limitless. And so, Pete, kind of pitched Jeremy and I, one day, when we were shooting video, and I'll never forget it, because that was the moment that changed our business forever. And, he had this idea to iterate on this concept that he had done previously, and make, a lot of different improvements and elements to it. And then, and you might appreciate this, I got up in the middle of it and I said, Pete, can I grab what you have? And it was the original concept. And I said, and I took a couple swings. I said, I need this in my golf bag. We need to make this make sense for the golf audience. And so from there, we created a swing weighted element to it, where now you can use it as a weighted warm up club. We were very adamant about being D3, which is, as kind of in the middle of the road of swing weights, but about 2.5-3 times heavier, and overloaded weighted ball on the end as well. And so, kind of all that to say, we created this first of a kind product. And with that, at this point in our evolution, we had Dr. Troy Van Biezen, who has trained, multiple world number ones. He's a content provider for us. He was introduced to me through Zach Johnson, who is a longtime friend of mine, and Troy had worked with Zach, and so it was great to have Troy as part of the program. And so we were going through the prototype phase of what's now the swing trainer. We said, "Hey, Troy, would you be interested to use this with some of your players, and some of your tour guys like Scotty and some of the others?" And he said, "Yeah, I think this could be amazing." And so he went and did some programming, and Scotty started using the swing trainer in fall of 2021. He hadn't won on tour at this point. And, he was using it during the off season, and they were doing a lot at home to train. And then Scotty used it at Torrey Pines at the start of 2022. And at this point we had just pretty much had a soft launch on it. We hadn't, hadn't officially announced the PGA show yet. And so right around that time was Torrey Pines, of course. And Scotty used it for the first time as a pre-round warm-up on tour to warm up, because I think as the story goes, at that point, I think his knee was bugging him a little bit. This was a very safe, effective way for him to warm up. He ended up liking how his swing felt that week. I think he top fived it. And 2 weeks later, his next event was WM Phoenix Open. He wins.
Right.
He's using the swing trainer every day at this point to warm up. Very regimented, routine oriented player in person. And so continued to use it as he ascended to world number one. And, he won 3 out of the next 4 events, wins the Masters. And meanwhile, he's using this, crazy new device from us. And so the conversation for us was very natural with him. And, it obviously was spurred on by Dr. Troy Van Biezen originally. And so, there was this nice kind of kindred synergy between us and him. And so that's how we originally started with him. And, he's been an ambassador since and continued to get more involved in the business and been, and I'm sure other people say this about Scotty who have worked with him or have had encounters with him. He's amazing and truly cares. And his whole mission is very similar to ours, where he wants to help people and he sees us as a vehicle to help do that.
Yeah, he's definitely a very humble individual. I remember when he was interviewed after his Masters win, and just very down to earth, and it definitely comes across that way as somebody that enjoys helping other people, and so yeah, he's a good one for sure. As is Justin and Zach and the others. How did Jason Bale come about? How did that arrangement partnership?
So we got to know Jason over the past, I would say, year and a half, 2 years, and obviously down there at Jupiter Hills Club in Florida, and through someone on our team, Nicole Hage, and had developed a relationship with him, and he was a huge fan of what we were doing because of as and you talk about it a lot, just the golf instruction and your golf swing. The center point of that is your body has to move in an effective way to be able to accomplish what you're trying to do. Yeah. And so Jason is an enormous advocate and believer in that, and puts that, without me speaking for him, my understanding of just how he approaches everything through all our conversations is, that is integral to his approach to coaching and instruction. And, I've heard him say this comment, if you want to swing better, you move beautifully first. And, it really hits home of, just helping the students, the golfer, understand, if we're trying to get here in a golf swing, I got to be able to move my body in that way. And so that was the foundation of that relationship. And, I got to know him over the past year plus. And, we just hit it off, and he seems to be, again, just like Scotty and Zach and Justin and Tom and the others, very just very aligned with what we're trying to do and what he wants to do, to help people as well.
Yeah, and I think it's important. You want to be able to help golfers, obviously, of all ages. I mean, this has worked very well for players at an elite level like Scotty and some of the others, and obviously high level coaches like Jason. But the average golfer, and I want to get into, because I know you guys, I've now got a partnership with the PGA Tour. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I want to get your thoughts on some feedback from some of the everyday golfers. What's been some of the feedback, and especially some of your more, and I'm going to be polite because I'm in that group, more seasoned golfers, shall we say, or more mature golfers, because there's a lot of fitness stuff out there on the market, not necessarily golf, but in general, that sometimes some of us older guys, might struggle a little bit with. But this is something that really fits well for all ages. Talk about that. What's been some of the feedback that you guys have gotten from some of the older golfers?
Yeah, appreciate you asking. It first of all, the feedback we get is everything. It's the founding mission of Jeremy and why he started this business is to help people. And as Jeremy often says, it's really about your life. It's about everything off the golf course. The golf is a side effect of what we do. And and it's interesting how and you use the word fitness, and that is the classification that we are. But in reality, the perception of people around, I don't want to do a fitness program.
Right.
This is going to be too intense for me. This is Peloton, is this CrossFit? What is this? And as firsthand, I mean, it couldn't be any more from the truth. It is for someone that needs a gentle program. It is a gentle program. For someone who is in back pain, it is exactly what they need. As I said in the beginning around Jeremy's background, being a core proficiency of what he does and what we do in the app. And so the feedback we get from our users, from our members, is an incredible amount of gratitude. It's really shocking that, again, the golf is a side effect to a lot of these people, because they have more energy, they have more stamina to play, not just 18 holes and they're playing 36 and then they're playing the next day. And we've polled our members, and the number one thing that they want to do is just play more golf.
Sure.
We kind of have that core golfer group, and they just want to play. And we enable people to do that. We give them the tools to enable themselves to do that, really. And so that's a lot of the feedback, Ted, where, it's some people that have been in, again, as I said about Jeremy's background, debilitating back pain. And, maybe they're kind of into that 50s, 60s age group, and thinking about longevity in the game and want to be playing when they're 80. And so they see us as a pathway to do that. And, there's also, on the flip side of that, I will say our core user and member is skews over, 45, 50 years old. But we do have a lot of younger golfers as well. And I mentioned, over 30 a few minutes back. There's a lot of these younger golfers, and maybe the COVID generation of they're just getting into the game. But again, they're coming straight from the office, already feeling the pain. And, we're the anti or the answer to, okay, I'm going to take, a couple of Advil and have a couple of beers on the course. That's going to make me feel better. Right. We're and that's so common, right? I mean, that's golf for a lot of people. And we're trying to dispel that, as the routine, and and really just help people understand this is not intimidating. It's very basic movements, but done in a very correct way. And you are instructed of how to do that. And that is the difference. And the customization and the personalization that each member gets. This program is for their body and nobody else's. And, with that, we have well over 100 different tracks that someone can go into depending on how they fill out the assessment and progress in the program. And so, it's effective for that reason. And, again, kind of long-winded way to say, people just seem to have a lot of gratitude just around, and that makes us feel incredible. Like we're carrying out our mission, that, we're just helping them feel better at the end of the day.
I think for me, how I look at this is, I wouldn't say that golf is a byproduct as much as a benefit, because, seeing an improvement, I can remember, pre-COVID, there were a lot of, older golfers for a number of reasons, but particularly for whether it be health reasons, their fitness level wasn't what it was at one time, and started dropping away from the game because they just, they weren't able to play. Even guys in their 60s, just were not able to play anymore.
Yeah.
Their scoring wasn't, up to snuff, as it were. And they were starting to play less and less and less. And, they've been to the doctors, they've done this, they've taken the Advils, they've done that, this, that, and the other, and nothing seemed to work. And what you guys are offering really is a great solution, because it's very low impact compared to a lot of other things that you see out in the fitness world. And what I mean by that is, you see people going to the gym, and, lifting weights, and then they're injuring themselves. Then they're trying to play golf and they injure themselves even further. What you guys are offering really is a very, and I want to give kudos to all of the staff, with your group, because they really do go the extra mile with all of the people that are using the program or interested in the program. They don't just say, well, here, we're going to ship you this product, subscribe to it, and you're kind of on your own. Go to our YouTube channel. You can see all the videos you want. They actually get entrenched with you and help guide you into the right program for you. And it's very customized, very tailor-made. And that's important. That speaks volumes. And it brings me to this next, because I guarantee you, without that offer, you wouldn't be where you are with, and it's not just the PGA, but obviously the LPGA and other organizations. We'll talk about them as well. But now you've become the official golf fitness system for the PGA Tour. You don't get in that corner unless you've got something. It's not just a matter of having a nice looking product and it works okay. You've got a system that you're bringing to the table that they see and have recognized as going to be a benefit to others on the tour, and obviously supporting the tour. So tell a little bit about that. How that obviously has got to be very good feeling for you guys.
Yeah, again, kind of going back to the origin of this company and this business. And I'm so fortunate to have met Jeremy in the beginning and been part of this journey of ours. Never would have dreamed, that here we are, and all of a sudden now, it seems like, and I've been in a number of events and been in the training facilities, and so many of those guys are using our products.
Yeah.
And it's just become a part of their training routines. And a lot of them, and maybe there's some influence there, if you see someone like Scotty become world number one,
Right.
You're going to follow what that guy's doing.
Of course.
All right, if that's the secret sauce, okay, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And, but more than that, again, as a lot of these guys have, their own physios and their own routines on tour weeks, it's really just become a staple out there. And again, the whole premise of, and you mentioned in the very beginning, back and a lot of people say, Tiger started this whole generation of, guys working out and girls working out to play professional golf and college golf, and it goes down the line. And, it's really come a long way. And I think our partnership with the tour is the personification of that, and a recognition of that. And, again, just a partnership that makes sense, because of, this is not something foreign to the tour and the players. It's so natural, and we're bringing awareness to that. And so, it's been, it's been a really cool journey with them, getting to know a lot of the people behind the scenes at the PGA Tour. I was just the players a couple weeks back, and it's quite an operation they have, and for us to be part of that is incredible.
Yeah, it's definitely something that is more than just a feather in your cap. I mean, to get into that position with the PGA Tour, because again, they don't just open the doors nonchalant. I mean, they are very diligent in what they look for to partner with any sort of relationship. I mean, they're a big organization. They've been around for many, many years, and so to get that door open, again, and I just want to add something real funny, interesting that you said when you mentioned about a lot of the other tour players, seeing Scotty and others that have had success. These guys all compete against one another once they get out on the first tee, but behind the scenes, a lot of them are friends. A lot of them joke around that, and if you think that in any event that they're not looking in, or especially on the range, they're not looking in one another's bag, or they're not seeing what the other guys are doing that's giving them an advantage, or they're going to follow suit. So it's great that you guys have got some people that as great ambassadors from not just the playing side but also the teaching side now as well, that can get out and help other golfers. So I think it's just great what you guys are doing. Obviously the ladies, I mean, we've seen a big explosion over the last several years with the LPGAs as well, with a lot of these young girls coming up on the Epson Tour and onto the full LPGA. I got to be careful what I say, because I don't want to offend the ladies out there, but they were kind of the same as the guys 30 years ago. I mean, the ladies always looked great, but they weren't in the same shape as what you're seeing now. These young girls are coming out there and they've got their fitness regime. So, I can see that being, another notch, if you will, in GolfForever's belt, and getting the LPGA players excited about doing that as well. You're also partnering with Folds of Honor and obviously the Veteran Golfers Association. Tell us a little bit about those partnerships.
Yeah, two incredible groups. A little bit different by nature, but really,
Sure.
really, again, all about helping people. And we want to always partner and associate ourselves with the groups that feel and act and strive to do the same thing ultimately that we are. And I've said this, and our team says this a lot, that we will never just slap a logo on somebody or just do something for an appearance sake. We're not selling widgets. We're selling health,
Right.
and
Exactly.
there's a true benefit. And the people that, yeah, and the people and the groups that we associate with, we want that to be very similar to ours. And when you look at VGA and you look at Folds, two amazing organizations there.
Right.
And there's a lot of affinity on our team. I mean, and Jeremy used to, basically give, free treatment to any active military or veterans himself in his practice. As busy as he was, and as blocked out for many months, and people flying in all across the world to see him. He had never wavered on that. As always was important to him. I hold similar values, and our team does. And it's I think it just speaks to whoever and whatever we associate with. We want it to be very, very foundational to our mission, our beliefs, and where we want to go in business.
Yeah, and it does. It speaks a lot about your organization, because obviously every business has to, has to earn money and has to generate revenue, and people understand that. But you also have to have a certain core value of wanting to help your community, and community being not just the golfers, but community in general. And Jeremy, I've interviewed. In fact, I think he was the first one that I interviewed from GolfForever on the show. And yeah, it was just a great guy. I had a great conversation with him, and it was very apparent that this was not just about having a product or a model, if you will, and promoting it. I mean, obviously that's part of the marketing and so forth, but it was really, you could really sense the passion in what he said of what he was trying to do, because he recognized, I mean, doing the business that he saw, has worked in for so many years, he sees a lot of these people that are coming into his office. He's recognizing some of the issues that they're faced with. And now he's got, something else that he can put in the mix and say, okay, here, I think if you do this, 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 and this, and we've got a great program with attached to a great product that's going to help you with a lot of these core areas. And, oh, you're a golfer? Great. You're going to see some great benefits here as well. And that's what people are looking for. People want honesty. They want a company that is really looking out for their best interest. They're not just, one and done where, hey, thanks very much. And, when the upgrade comes in, we'll get you that one too. But, they're looking for that type of a commitment where and then companies, like you said, like Folds and the VGA, those are great organizations. That's another great way to give back to a community that has given so much and sacrificed so much, for this country and so forth. So I'm really excited that you guys are working with them. What I wanted to ask you as well is you've got some other great physical trainers as well that are working with you guys. And if I'm saying anything incorrectly, is it Andrea Dodato? Is that correct? Did I say that correctly?
Dodato, yep.
Okay,
yep.
And then there's obviously Sheldon Roberts and Scott Shepard. Tell us about them as well, how that sort of came about and what role they're playing with GolfForever.
Yeah, Andrea, Sheldon, and Scott, amazing individuals. I will say before I talk about each of them, the cool thing for me being around, we talked about Pete Holman, we talked about Dr. Troy, but the cool thing about being around these people is you feel better after, not just physically, but you feel better, you feel motivated after being around them, because they are motivators, they're coaches, and that is just how they wake up every day. That is what makes them tick. And when you look at someone like Andrea, who has trained so many players on LPGA for so many years, Sheldon, who is out in the LA area, and who is really bright young guy, and he's a golf nut, and so this to him is like his dream, right? And he really wants to help people, and you can see that, you can see his passion come out in the videos. And then Scott, over in Orlando area, he again has had a lot of experience around tour players, LPGA, college teams, juniors. Works at Mike Bender Academy and has for many years, as well as some other on his own. And they each have their own distinct styles, and I think that's what you'll see in the GolfForever app, the GolfForever program, is each of our trainers, they have their way of engaging with the audience. And, you hit the nail on the head a few minutes back saying, we're right in the soup with you.
Yeah.
And, we're trying to, and it's an active strategy as a business. We're trying to actively connect with the person on the other end, on their phone or streaming it to their TV, because we want them to stay engaged and really get this and feel better and continue to do this, because we know it's going to help them. And so, that is this whole point around bringing in very, very talented, experienced trainers, physical therapists, Dr. Jeremy James, chiropractor by trade, Dr. Troy Van Biesen, same thing. And, but the knowledge, the expertise, the athletes that all of these people, individuals have worked with is all, almost second to none. And so, you're not getting someone who on the other end of that video is inexperienced, or, not coming from a place of, very, very strong execution and efficiency and purpose for what we were trying to help that person do.
Yeah, and it's important too, again, for the for the end users, if you will, of the trainer, and also with the programs that are being offered. It's important that they see that there is a very high level of instruction and development for them, because again, and I'm not trying to, criticize other things on the market. And I'm not talking even about the golf business, but just in fitness in general. When you look at a lot of the other programs, they're very hyper focused on a very condensed demographic, meaning, that 20 to maybe 35 demographic, as many industries have, it's high powered, high energy training, and that most people, especially I'm sick. I just turned 61 a few weeks ago. So I'm not in that, demographic anymore. I mean, I'm pretty good shape, but I can't, keep it up with a 20-year-old, as I used to. I try, but I can't. And, so when they look at that, and you get some of your more mature golfers out there, and they're looking at some of the other options, there really isn't a lot of other options out there, because again, it's either too high impact, too high level. And a lot of them got out of golf because, for other reasons too, but a lot of them got out is because they just couldn't do it anymore. Or they were unhappy with the results that they were getting. And along comes you guys and said, "Hey, we feel your pain, literally, and we're going to do something about it."
Yep.
And you guys have literally rolled out the red carpet, and you've just really slid into an area of golf that was not there. There really was nobody that was. It was a void, I guess, is the best way to put it. And I just think you guys have done a great job, and your team is growing. You're reaching into other areas of, obviously not just golf, but other areas as well. Again, with Folds and the VGA and that, where you're expanding out and you're reaching out into the communities to be able to say, we're here, we've got something that can literally help you. And, again, you've attached yourself to golf for obvious reasons, but it's not really just exclusive. I mean, even if you don't play golf, you can still get the swing trainer and still reap all kinds of benefits. And who knows, maybe you'll take up golf as a result of it. So you're tapping into so many great markets with what you guys are doing, and you're bringing a lot of world-class people into the fold. So congratulations on that.
Well, thank you, Ted. Yeah, you're very eloquent in saying that, and I appreciate, and we appreciate it as a business. And I'm going to steal that tagline. I'm writing that down. We feel your pain, literally. That's fantastic.
Well, I think it's, there's a lot of truth to that. I mean, I think, that humans are very interesting. I'm a visual person, and I watch people. I watch their body language, and I look, and if people feel that you're being genuine with them, they're very receptive to whatever your message might be. If they don't feel it, if they feel like they're kind of just, getting the wool pulled over their eye, and they're not really seeing it, yeah, sure, you're going to get people that are going to, okay, let me try it out and that. But to really get a long-term commitment from people, they have to feel that you really you get them, in other words. And when people understand and get that feeling that you do get them and understand what it is they're dealing with, and you've got a solution to help them, that's a lot to, that's a pretty big, as I said, feather in your cap to have, because that's not something that everybody can do. And not just in your side of the business, but in golf, even with instruction. There's a lot of great instructors out there, but there's some really, really good ones. And the really, really good ones are the ones that really get what it is that they need to do to help people to become better. It's, it's not just a numbers game. It's a matter of actually giving helping people to see real-time results. And you guys have married the two together. And on behalf of the golf business, we thank you for that. So any final thoughts in closing as we get ready to wrap up? And then I'll give you an opportunity to give the folks the website and so forth, where they can go to get more information. But any final thoughts that you want to say before we sign off?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, Ted. Yeah, I would tell anyone listening and watching out there that, to your point, we really do try to connect with every person at where they're at, not where we're at, not trying to, kind of yell at them through a bullhorn type of thing. This can be and is, very effective in a way that, again, it can be gentle. We have intense programs, we have everything in between. But it really is, as I said in the very first few minutes, based around movement. we help people move better, because ultimately golf should feel great, and for a lot of people it doesn't. And so, that is our goal as a business. We try to empower people with those tools and the education, so they can play golf forever, hence the name of the business.
I couldn't agree more, and well said, and a great way to end this segment. Jon, I want to thank you very much for coming on and being my special guest tonight, and sharing not just your knowledge of what it is that you do, but just really helping people to understand that you do get their story. You do understand what they're looking for, and that you guys are actually answering the call. And I want to thank you for sharing that with the audience. What's the best way if people want to get more information or want to become involved with GolfForever? Where can they go?
Thank you. I appreciate it, Ted. Just go to GolfForever.com, or you can download the app directly in the App Store or Google Play. Perfect.
All right. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. Thanks again to my very special guest from GolfForever, Jon Levy. And also a special thank you to the guys in the Coaches Corner panel, John Decker and Brian Dobbie, and also to my good friend, golf certified fitness instructor, Bob Forman. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this week. I'll have everything sent up to the YouTube channels very shortly. But on that note, we'll see you. Keep swinging out there, keep doing your stuff, and make sure you go to the website, GolfForever.com. It's well worth it to check it out. Thanks. God bless everybody, and have a great weekend.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this week's broadcast of Golf Talk Live. We'd like to thank this week's Coaches Corner panel, and a special thank you to tonight's guest. Remember to join Ted every Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. Central on Golf Talk Live. And be sure to follow Ted on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. If you're interested in being a guest on Golf Talk Live, send Ted an email at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. This has been a production of the iGolf Sports Network.